Hello, we're back this week to finish tidying up my basement pantry. There was a few shelves that I have not gone through in quite a while. Now I have taken things out of here and I have also put new things in. But as far as taking everything out and really laying eyes on everything and really cleaning everything up, it has been quite a while since I've done that. And I also had gotten a Walmart order the day before, so I wanted to take a second to kind of put those items where they needed to go before I got started. I personally believe that it is invaluable to have a pretty well-stocked pantry because you just never know what life is going to throw at you, and I will get into that a little bit more later on in the video. But here I'm just putting away a few things that I had gotten at the store. I have these cake mixes, which I had bought a while ago. They don't expire until at least a year out, but I think I'm going to stop buying them. I do a lot of baking, but sometimes it's nice just to have a quick box mix to throw together for a quick dessert whenever, the kids might want something. But I think what I'd like to do is make up the dry mix myself and just store them in jars. And I can make, whatever kind of cake mix I want, muffin mix, cornbread mixes, and I can just store those in jars, pull them out, and then add the wet ingredients when I'm going to bake it. And I think it'll be a lot more convenient to do it that way. Plus, I know exactly what's in the jars. So here we're just tidying up. Last week we went through the majority of this shelf here, tidying all of that up, but I didn't do the top shelf or the bottom shelf. And I bought a couple new boxes of pasta, so I just wanted to go through and kind of get those organized. The boxes from Walmart were kind of all bent up, so it made it a little bit harder to store. And I know I should probably put them into a different kind of airtight container. Thankfully, I've never had an issue storing pasta this way, so I'm hoping that it doesn't start now. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Jen, and I live here with my husband and two of our sons. We have one older son who has already moved out, and I have been on a decluttering journey now for a few years. I consider myself minimalish. That is not my term, but I heard it before and it really resonated with me. So I think I was heading more towards minimalism, and in a lot of ways, I still am with many things in the house. But food is not one of those items. I really do feel like it's important to be prepared for anything that life might throw at you. I was recently out of work unexpectedly for about a month and a half. I got hurt out of nowhere, and it was difficult because I was only getting about less than 80% of my paycheck, and the pantry really did help us not spend so much on groceries during that time. So I think for anything like that, you just never know when someone is going to get hurt or end up in the hospital or lose a job. The kids were home this day for Veterans Day, so you might see them popping in and out at times. Um, but you just never know when something might happen. And I really wanted to come down. It's been a while since I've really gone through to again just kind of put eyes on everything, take inventory of what I had, and just so I could know what I needed to buy more of, what I could hold off for a while. There was a few things that I just tend to buy on repeat, and I realized that I don't need to buy those items. I can focus more on different things. I don't watch TikTok or Instagram. The only thing that I use for social media is YouTube, and I watch a lot of long form content of all different kinds. But I do see a lot of videos kind of portraying what's going on in the world right now with benefits being held for the month of November. And regardless of how you feel about that, whichever side you stand on, I do think that they're necessary for some people. But I also wonder if anyone uses them to kind of stock up their pantries, because I know it's just really beneficial. If you have a stocked pantry, if you don't have money coming in for any period of time, you can kind of lean pretty heavily on what you have stockpiled over a year, 2 years. You can do it really slowly. You don't have to do things fast. Pick up a couple extra cans of vegetables, fruits, beans, anything like that that you can kind of put aside for later use, and then just keep rotating those things through. I do think it's very beneficial to have on the shelves. I am super excited. If you've been watching a while, you know that I've been talking about fixing up our son's room, the one that's moved out. We've been planning on doing this for a couple of years now, and I think we're going to finally start this project after Thanksgiving. We just found out that he's going to be coming home for the month of December, so we wanted to get in there a little bit earlier and try to do what we can. It's going to make quite the mess out in this part of the basement because we have to kind of take everything out of his room and bring it into this section. So that was another reason I really wanted to get in here and get everything cleaned up. I hate when things are laying on the floor. If I can help it, I really try to get things up off the floor just because it is unsettling to look at. When you walk down, it feels like there's always something that needs to be done. It's just a trick that I think our minds play on us. So if I can try to keep things off the floor as much as possible, there's still a few things that are kind of always on the floor. But my goal with fixing up this new room is that I won't really have to rely on the floor as much, and I can kind of get some more shelving and figure out the best way to organize. Right now, our main goal is just putting a new window in there, putting up some new drywall and insulation because that room had flooded a couple of times, so we had to rip up all the flooring, and then there was mold on the walls, so we had to cut off all of those walls. So all of that needs to be replaced. I'm going to eventually figure out which kind of organization I want in that room. I'm just going to give it some time. I don't want to buy a bunch of new things if I don't really know exactly how I want to organize it. I'm thinking it's going to be freestanding shelves just because I'll be able to have a little bit more space that way. And then I also am really excited to get a refrigerator down there. I have always wanted a second fridge for all kinds of things. I can do more bulk shopping, just having some more room. Plus, also, if I'm doing a lot of food prep, I'll have a place to actually store everything. As it is now, it's really hard to do a lot of prep that requires the refrigerator just because we don't have a ton of space in the one that we have. One of my dreams is to have an entire room filled with home canned food and everything that I've done myself. I don't ever see that really happening at this point, but you never know, maybe someday in the future that would happen. It would just be such a beautiful thing to look at shelves and shelves of beautifully home canned food, very organized and kept clean. I would love that. So here's a look into these drawers here. They're actually not too bad. I just really, again, wanted to go through, make sure that there wasn't anything in here that wasn't needed, and to kind of reorganize things a little bit to make it easier, and just, again, to know exactly what I have. Holiday baking is coming up, so I wanted to see what I kind of had in there for that. And just to, especially once we get to the bottom part of the shelf, really dusting everything off. It had been a long time since I'd actually gone through that. And pulling out some things that we could eat now before they go bad. And I do need to relabel all of those drawers. They're not the right labels, but I'll do that another day. I think it's recommended to go through your pantry probably quarterly, but I find that every 6 months is probably okay as long as you're laying eyes on it on a regular basis. I am down here multiple times a day pulling from these shelves all of the time. So I would see if there was anything going on, but it is nice to really get a deep clean done, get everything dusted, and again, just taking inventory of exactly what we have so I don't go out and purchase the same things over and over again. I know I talked about it in my last video, but I have been really getting into making bread again with my bread machine. I just use the machine on the dough setting and then I bake it up in a different pan. Well, I purchased a Pullman pan, which I've been wanting for a couple of years. I finally decided on which one to get. I got it, and it is making the most beautiful bread. I cannot wait to get into different types of bread. I kind of really like the Dave's Killer bread, so I'm hoping to find a good recipe as like a copycat of that recipe. So if you know of any, definitely leave it in the comments below, but I'm going to be trying that next. So here I'm going to show you underneath this black cabinet. We've had this thing for years. What it looks like underneath there, it is so packed full of stuff. I just kept piling more and more on top and not really taking the time to look in and see exactly what's in there. And even when I first started, I was just going to kind of pull a couple things out in the beginning and just kind of dust things off and take a look at what was in there, but I decided eventually to kind of pull everything out and give everything a really good dusting because these are things that I don't typically use all the time. I have a lot of spices in the back for when I'm doing pickling. I have a ton of molasses, probably a lifetime supply of molasses in here, and things like the corn syrup that I just don't use that often. There's a ton of honeys, and I ended up putting the baking powder and baking soda into one of the 5-gallon buckets just so they are more airtight. They're all good for at least the next year. Some are 2 years out, but definitely getting them into a better packaging. I could put them into jars, but I think they're pretty safe in the 5-gallon buckets. I still have a few bags of brown sugar that I'm going to use up, and then I'm going to try to start make my own. I know it's not complicated. It's literally just sugar and molasses, and since I have so much of that, I figured I'm going to give it a try. I should be able to just throw it into the mixer, add a couple tablespoons of the molasses to the sugar, mix it up, and then it is brown sugar. So I will take you along if you'd like to see that process, but it's all over the place if you wanted to look at it, look it up before then. I'm not sure if you noticed, but one of those drawers are filled with extracts of all different kinds. I make my own vanilla extract. I think I have a couple of bottles still from before I made my own, but since I've started making it, I just use whatever I make. I currently have several bottles that are, in the process of being made, and I just bought a bunch more beans. They were at Costco, and I picked up 3 of those bottles. So I'll probably just add those to a big bottle of vodka or rum or whatever I decide to make. But I also have ones like peppermint, almond, butter, all different flavorings for if I'm baking, and those will really last forever because they're in alcohol. Those things will not expire. So if you have them and they're old, they're still going to be just fine, especially if they're unopened. But I would say, don't just toss them out because of the expiration date. If you're ever going to use them, just keep them. They'll probably be fine. Another tip that I use a lot in my pantry is dating everything with a Sharpie. I used to be really religious about doing this. I did it as soon as I brought everything home, but I'd kind of fallen out of that habit. So now I'm just going through, making sure I have the dates on everything. That way I can look at it quickly and decide which one I need to grab from first. And if it's not me grabbing, hopefully the other members of the family will also look at the dates. But usually it's me grabbing from these, so I kind of know my system and I am fine with that. But it's good because it's sometimes when you're looking at a can or a jar, it can be hard to find the dates, or over time they wear off. So if you can just put it on there with a Sharpie, it's really quick and easy. Most of the items that I keep down there will last a really long time, like the molasses, the corn syrup, the honey, cornstarch, all of that stuff has a very long shelf life if kept in the right conditions. So just something to think about if you're trying to build up your own pantry. There are a lot of foods that will keep for a long time as long as you keep them in a cool, dry, dark place. And most of the time, area's pretty dark and it stays cool most of the time. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm just storing these in the 5-gallon bucket and labeling the bucket. That way, at a quick glance, I know exactly what's in there. And once I run out upstairs, I'll know exactly where to go to get it. And it just keeps it a little bit safer in the bucket than it would just sitting on the shelf. I am just going to bring these up and replenish what I have up in my kitchen. It's a baking soda, baking powder, and then a new one for the fridge. And I'm also going to bring up the marshmallows because it is hot chocolate season, and these will go into the pantry. I would like to find a better system for the potatoes and the onions, but for right now, this is what works. I find if I take them out of the plastic bag, they will last a lot longer. There's no heat coming from the top of the freezer, so it doesn't affect them in that way, but I would eventually like to store them in a different place. Now I'm just going through here. I have so much taco seasoning. I get it from Thrive. I know I can make my own, but I really do like their ingredients, their mix. So I have a ton of it down there that will last us quite a while before we actually go through that. And maybe by that point, I'll find a recipe that I can make my own. But for right now, that's what works. And again, just kind of going through and tidying this up. Under that cabinet, I found a bunch more coconut oil. So I added that to the coconut oil just again, so everything is in the same place. So when I know if I'm going to look for something, I know all of it is in that one place and I don't have to purchase things that I already have. I have found that I just don't have the energy that I used to do full all day declutters, and thankfully I'm at a point where I don't have to do those anymore. There's always decluttering that needs to be done because there's things constantly coming into our homes. But just taking little bits of time really does make a huge difference. Like I said, the kids were home this day. I only took about an hour and a half to 2 hours to get all of this done, and that includes pulling everything out, cleaning everything, and the cleanup at the end. I think sometimes we can forget about the cleanup at the end. If you pull everything out and you have to then put everything away all at the end of it, it can be exhausting. You can just kind of leave everything there. So I always make sure that I'm leaving time to pick up whatever mess I've made, just like things like this, like putting the bags into the recycling bin are some things that people I think just kind of forget about, and you don't want to leave that stuff at the end. You want to feel like you're done, it's all accomplished, and everything is picked up and tidy. That way you're just done. It's out of your mind completely, and you can move on to the next thing that you have to do. I had left these cans sitting on the floor for a few weeks because I didn't want to take the time to put them away properly. In order to put them away, I had to kind of reorganize the way that things were. That way they were on the bottom. You don't want to put something on the top and then use those items first. You want to do the first in, first out rule. So it just took about a minute or two for me to do that. It really wasn't a big deal, but I had been putting it off for a few weeks. This area here, I really try not to store any kind of food on. There's a couple boxes there. My goal is to get rid of those. The Jiffy, I don't even use that. I don't know why I still have that. I'll probably just use that one box. But like I said earlier, I'm going to start making my own mix and just keeping it in the jars. And this is just more like electrical, so I really try not to store too much on this shelf. And I just wanted to kind of get it vacuumed, picked up, and I'm not going to store things anymore there. One time when Walmart did a drop off, they dropped all of these bags off in with our delivery. So I don't want to just throw them away. I'll use these for throwing things away, for putting into the smaller trash bins. But like there's a million bags here, so I'm just going to stick them into this thing here that I use. So that's like a lifetime supply of bags. And then for getting rid of things, we never really eat couscous. I don't know why. I've tried it a couple times and we didn't like it. I'm undecided if I'm just going to get rid of this or if I'm going to try to maybe make one more batch and see how it goes. So if you have any good recipes for couscous, This is Israeli couscous toasted. So let me know if you have any really good recipes. Maybe I'll give it one more shot. My son just cleaned his room. He brought this out. It's a bag that he was given at school for trick-or-treating. I think they're probably done trick-or-treating at this point for next year. So we'll just throw this away. As you saw, I have quite a few corn syrups, and I never really use them. They're good for a couple different things, but for the most part, I don't use it. This one's turned a little yellow. It's still fine to use, but I'm going to get rid of it. And then I found these up there. They're just lids. I don't even think that they fit on anything that we have. I'm going to take a look and just double check. The straws I might keep if they fit onto any of the kids' cups. And I'm going to try both of these lids to see if they fit. Otherwise, I will just get rid of them. And then I was just using this for trash. So I'm going to say 2, 3, 4, 5 things that we're going to get rid of. It's been over a year since I've actually gone through this section, so it felt really good to clean it all out. I had nothing in here that was expired, so that was really nice. So I'm going to use a lot of these things up for holiday baking. We've got coconut dates, some cranberries, and some ginger cubes that I will use for holiday baking. And then we've got the jellos, puddings. Now I know exactly what I have of each, so if I do need to buy any more, I know what to buy. I just kind of tidied up those drawers, again, just to lay eyes on everything to see exactly what I had. And then this, I have not gone through in probably a couple of years. So it felt really good to get in there, see what I have, dust everything, and just clean everything out. Cleaned up that shelf a bit. I think in January I'm going to do the pantry challenge and try to use up some of this stuff so I can can up a bunch of new stuff for the winter, just like some meats and some more broths especially. Got that put away. And then up there I just added a few things just again so they're up off the floor. And then I tidied up that area as well. And those are just a couple of bags of dog treats that I'm keeping. I just don't like to keep food on the floor because it's cement. And I got 2 new bags of bread flour, which my canister upstairs is almost empty. It'll hold about 10 pounds. So once that's empty, I'll put those in there. So I do think it looks much better. Thank you for spending some time with me today. I truly appreciate it, and I will see you next week in the next video. Bye.